The National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, has denied closing the political killings task team. This follows allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who said that the unit was disbanded after uncovering a criminal syndicate involving politicians, senior police officials and judicial figures. The situation has sparked a debate over the powers of the police minister versus that of the National Police Commissioner. For more analysis on this, we are joined by Professor Alex van Den Heever, who is from the Wits School of Governance. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Yesterday, there was also the stress around the distinction around the policy and who heads policy and operations and who heads operations. But when it comes to the political task team, and I want to start off there, does the minister have the power to make such an instruction? The letter that we saw that letter is actually addressed to the General Fani Masemola.
Essentially, he doesn't have to abide by it. So in essence, the power lies with the commissioner rather than with the minister. But if there is a sort of cozy relationship, then these kinds of arrangements can proceed. So the letter itself very much looks like an instruction.
Yeah. And does the minister then have those powers to instruct the police commissioner on what to do from an operational perspective?
It appears not. In essence, the role of the minister is distinct. The minister, the question is whether the minister is making that determination on the basis of policy. The letter itself appears to suggest that. It appears to suggest that the unit should be disbanded because it is no longer needed in the public interest. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the only comment made. That's quite distinct from saying, from an operational perspective, it's not required. But it's very odd that a minister would be making such a determination. It is extremely odd. Now, there is a tendency for heads of department, etc., to allow a minister to issue such instructions and to follow them, because the ministers often have quite a lot of power over appointments and removal of the senior officials, but and can put them under huge pressure. And if they're all part of the same political party, can put them under pressure politically, so that their position becomes untenable. So there's a tendency to often follow orders that are given that are not necessarily legally, let's say that they are not a legal instruction.
Yeah, and with that said, the establishment of the political task team follows a decision that has been taken by the president of the country, implemented by cabinet and the Justice and Security Cluster. So if the Justice and Security Cluster, which is being chaired by the police minister, follows through on an order that comes from the president that says that there must be the establishment of a political task team, then why wouldn't the minister have the power then to say that actually now we no longer need that task team?
Yeah, so that's where there's, as I said, a gap between, let's say, a question about policy and operational decision-making. It can be a policy that you need to establish a particular task team, a political killings task team. And that task team then receives a budget based on the fact that it is approved, that it has been authorized, essentially, and is approved politically as part of policy. So the question is really where, has the policy changed? Because in fact, the policy came from from government as a whole. And now he's suggesting in the letter that there's kind of a policy change. Now, there's no evaluation of this unit. And it appears as though the minister is responding to the entreaties to shut down this unit because of its effectiveness. And that is not coherent. That's not consistent with the policy that was put in place. So in essence, the policy framework says, yes, you establish this unit. Based on that, you can have an organogram, you can fill posts, you can get a budget. If it's not official policy, then you don't get a budget. So that it's at that level. So whereas the operational decision making is, yes, this is a unit that exists and the operational decisions are made about what it does and what it doesn't do. And the minister would have no role in that because it has nothing to do with strategic policy. What it appears here, and the question is really whether or not the minister was now acting unilaterally in changing policy without any consultation either of the cabinet or of the president. Because remember, these kinds of decisions are not just the decision of the minister alone. They're decisions that are made as a collective within cabinet. And therefore, to deviate from that is something that should be discussed at that level. The question is whether it was or it wasn't, or whether this was just then the minister just acting on his own. So it very much appears, so it doesn't really matter whether or not the minister also has the authority to make that policy determination if the only reason they were making it was for a corrupt purpose. Yeah. And that is questionable. So the issue of whether or not they have this authority, they have no authority if there was a corrupt purpose behind the decision.
Yeah. The minister says right towards the end of that letter, my observation, and I want to emphasize on observation, because Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says that since the minister came in to office following the elections, he has never had an opportunity or has never been called to come and brief the minister on the work that has been done by the political killings task team. And with that said as well, I wonder whether it's fair to argue, as some have said, that that too amounts to interference with police work in terms of investigations, because now the dockets themselves have to be handed over to the head of detectives.
Yes, so that first of all, if there's a policy determination being made, and the minister is basically, suggesting that that's the case. Now, it's not in the personal opinion of the minister. If a minister is making a policy determination to interfere or to make this kind of decision, and that it's all above board and proper, there should be a proper report that he's working from, an evaluation and analysis that shows that, in fact, this unit is not anymore required in the public interest. But if there is nothing on his desk, and just somebody whispering in his ear, that is not appropriate, then it becomes interference. So again, what was the cause? What was the basis? What was the information that he had before him that drove him to write that letter? If there was nothing, no systematic analysis of the unit or the police requirements or the requirements of that police killings have somehow just political killings have suddenly just stopped and dried up in South Africa because the unit was so effective. If he has none of that before him, then his decision looks very unusual if his only point of contact was with dodgy individuals connected to Vusimusi.
Yeah. Then let's quickly look at the conduct then of Shadrack Sibiya, who is the head of detectives, of crime detection in the country. He says to my colleague that a letter came from the minister, which then went to the police commissioner, and the police commissioner then instructed him to follow through on the order, and he has done exactly that. But of course, now yesterday we heard from Police Commissioner Fani Masamula that he's never signed off on a letter instructing for the closure of the unit. And at the time when the letter was sent to Fani Masamula was on leave. Shadrack Sibiya was, we understand, was acting as a police commissioner. We just need to verify that as well. But Shadrack Sibiya tells my colleague that he got the letter from Fani Masamula, and Fani Masamula was on leave.
Yeah, so there are potentially many scenarios here. One is that, yes, he was acting, and so he took the decision as acting police commissioner, and on the basis of the instruction from the minister. The alternative scenario is that the letter did go to the actual commissioner, and that there was a verbal instruction which he then followed, and then the commissioner would be correct in saying, I didn't sign anything. He just told him. Yeah. So he never said that he didn't tell him.
Yeah, but he says there's a letter. Shadrack Sibiya says there's a letter.
So if there is a letter, then obviously he's now caught out in a lie. So all of these issues, all of these statements and these denials are verifiable. So this includes the verifying what the minister did and and the basis upon which he made a decision, because you can request everything that was before him that made him reach that decision. And you've got the timing of the SMS, of the WhatsApp messages and the contacts that the national minister had. and you've got the timing of the letters, you've got the timing of the different, whether or not the commissioner was on leave, etc., and whether or not a letter was sent. All of this is verifiable. So if people are basically denying things that are verifiable, they're in even deeper water. But it looks like there is a mess. It looks like there is dodgy business going on that is at the top end of the police services. It can't be allowed to continue. And essentially, it has to be systematically unraveled. This is not a matter for an ANC integrity committee. This is a matter for a proper systematic investigation. And the key people involved need to be properly pushed to the side so that the investigation can continue into them.
Well, of course, in Parliament starting off with their investigation, and then later on we still wait to see what the President is going to decide on what to do next. Thank you so much for making time for us, Professor Alex van Den Heever.